Hey, good evening, everybody. It is the first ever Evo podcast episode, Dropped Gears, and we are excited to be able to bring this content to you this year, starting in 2023. And I couldn't think of any better way to start the year with some juicy drama, some interesting topics regarding esports and just Trackmania in general, and whatever we feel like, because it's our show and not yours. But we have two co-hosts with me. They will be permanent co-hosts throughout the year, hopefully, as we go through this year through whatever interesting topics that we have going on. We'll also have some Q&A at the end of the show. Really quick overview. Like I said, we will be covering topics such as esports, drama, whatever it be, kind of just how we feel going into it. Then we will also have opportunities for you, the viewers, to interact with us, whether it be through Q&A or maybe short clips that you want to share with us and have us react to. I think that would be something that would be great to have your interaction and your feedback as well. So make sure that you are interacting with us and letting us know what you would like to see in future episodes of the podcast. So just a quick intro about me, and then I'll let my co-hosts intro themselves as well. My name is Aaron Import Brooks. I am a head admin at Evo. I handle all the business development and content creation streaming for Evo. I also have a large in-depth background in collegiate esports as well as the amateur scene in esports, varying from games from League of Legends, Overwatch, and CSGO, and now Trackmania in the last several years, as we are now moving into this future as a official org in Evo here pretty soon. So that is pretty exciting. I'm also a TMGL caster for Sinners. That's also another thing too, that you may see me on my personal stream on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. That being said, enough about me. Let's get to our co-hosts. And Lime, feel free to introduce yourself.
Oh, hello. Well, you guys, a few of you know me already as Lime or Limey Lime, but my name is Fernanda, in case you didn't know. I'm a Trackmania enthusiast, enjoyer. I'm also a photographer and a digital marketer. Now I'm content creating for Evo, but I'm also Josh's mom and mom of many of the kids on the community. But yeah, that's it about me. Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. Marina.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Lime, for being with us on this podcast. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun going forward because I think you bring a interesting perspective to things from a community and especially as like a community organizer side. But Shorty, my guy, introduce yourself.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Shorty. I snuck myself into Evo 1 or 2 months ago with a backwards server, so that's mainly what I joined Evo for. Even very early though, we planned this podcast, and I'm very happy that those plans turned out. Yeah, I mainly was a Trackmania player for a very long time. I played more or less competitively for 6, 7, 8 years with THE back then. I've joined teams like Eurosonic Gaming back then, but those times are a little bit past now. I'm not actively playing competitions apart from Cup of the Day. I had a little bit of fun with the map editor for some time. I really enjoyed backwards, for example, which is why I joined Evo for the backwards server. And apart from that, we will see what the future holds. So far, I'm very happy being part of Evo. I'm very happy that we have a podcast again, since you may not know, but I've been part of Let's Talk Trackmania, which was maybe even the first Trackmania podcast that ran for a couple of years, which sadly no longer is a thing anymore. So I'm really happy that we got another podcast now.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I'm very happy for you to be in Evo. I'm happy for you to be the coach for our Trackmania.
Oh yeah, totally did not mention that.
I was like, I don't know if we mentioned it, but I guess we should mention Shorty is also our coach for the Trackmania World Tour primary duo that we have for Europe, Deska and stuff. So we announced that a couple weeks ago. And we are super excited to have them with Shorty, especially as a coach, bringing in his competitive experience for those two players, especially Stuffs, who is a younger player. And they have such an insanely high skill ceiling that they have not yet reached. And so it'll be really exciting, and we'll be rooting for them to potentially make it into Trackmania Challenger League when the first set of promotion and relegation goes. So we'll see how this first regional tournament happens in the coming, not this weekend, but the following weekend for Europe. But that's a perfect kind of segue into our next section here, because we're going to be talking about the upcoming competitive esports events going on, and that's going to be Trackmania World Tour, Trackmania Grand League, and that's going to be happening this weekend with the Superweek that is coming. And yeah, so Grand League is going to be happening January through April. Man, I have a lot of work happening for me every weekend. Oh, as we go starting in January with the regular season, ending in February. Playoffs are going to be March, and then All Stars, which is an interesting format because that will include not only those from TMGL, but TMCL and also the regional seeds as well in All Stars. So that will be an exciting tournament to watch. And just in general, kind of what kind of role that even Evo or even myself will get to play in that is going to be interesting. Because I am tied to Sinners, so if Sinners doesn't make it to playoffs or All Stars, I'm not going to be able to cast either of those, but I'll be there for the regular season. And the first weekend is this weekend. It starts Saturday, so 2 days from now. And it starts at 5 p.m. Central European time, goes till 9 p.m. Central European, 8 p.m. There we go. Thank you. So Saturday, January 21st, it's going to be 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central European time. Obviously, I'm going to be biased and say that I want Sinners to be Carmen Corp, but I am going to let Lime and Shorty, whoever wants to jump in, have you guys been able to check out any of the teams? Like, who's your favorite? Who you looking at? Like, what's the feel?
For me personally,
Go back to the other slide.
I'm rooting for Mime and Elcon. I was really excited when I saw that there was rumors, about Elcon joining Mime, and I was like, maybe it is a thing. I would like to see him playing. I would like to see him competing. And now it's gonna be the first game that day. I'm rooting for them. I put all my bets on them. If we can bet here, I don't know, but I'm putting everything on them. I'm really excited to see Mime and Alcon competing. For the others, I know how Muda plays. I mean, he was a champion once. I'm also putting the bet on that game. I'm putting the bet on them, on Alliance. And K-Cover and Sinners, I actually have no idea.
Just say Sinners. It's the safest one. Just
yeah,
say
Sinners. we go Sinners.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Shorty.
this season is going to be very interesting because we have a lot of teams that you want to cheer for. I don't know, the 1v1 format always has been very, very not questionable, but there has been so many rule changes all the time and format changes. And even though it still was interesting to watch, having 1 out of 16 usually you had your favorite player or not. Kind of, at least for me personally, I always had one favorite player I was rooting on, maybe a second one I was also hoping for. But with those team ups now, it's really difficult to tell. I think we all have our money on Pack and Call. Favorite wise, they are definitely the main favorites as a team. But other than that, I'm also really interested to see how Alcon and Mime are gonna perform because they are obviously both the keyboard players playing together. It's same as Sinners with Kappa and Tween. That's also really interesting to watch. I mean, those two are players I know since I played Trackmania. They already have been there. I've played against them in certain tournaments. I know them. They are really nice guys. Basically most of them. But that's the interesting thing. Obviously, I'm also rooting for Massa and for Granadi because they are both fellow Germans and Granadi is obviously in a friend group of mine together as the OK boys, so obviously I have to root for him as well. So this is really gonna be interesting because there are gonna be like matchups where I'm gonna watch and be like, yeah, I don't really know. I just want to see a good match of them, and I don't really I can't really decide who I would want to win in those matchups. Then it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at some teams that like maybe not everybody paid attention to. You can't really take the showdown results too seriously because we were playing on campaign maps and none of the actual World Tour maps. So it's really hard to gauge like who was doing well. Like, for example, Sinners took took a game and beat Solari pretty handily, but Solari, it was kind of clear that they didn't really care to practice that much for the event. So they kind of struggled throughout the event. But there were some other teams that you saw that definitely took it seriously and practiced more. You saw that G1 really kind of threw a wrench in some teams' plans for that event. G1 actually kind of, I feel like, somewhat overperformed maybe expectations that people had originally for them. Gwen and Binks are really good players, don't get me wrong at all. But I think overall, I think people weren't necessarily paying attention to G1, and they were looking at more kind of the fancier names like Solari, ITB, Alliance, Big, of course, with Masa and Granati. Kind of like if there were like two fan favorite teams, it's really Masa Granati, Mime Elcon, and then if you're looking at like the performance heavy, like people expect to do really well, it would be like Carl Jr. Pack and Mutta and Soya. So, and then you have the rest of the teams, which are mainly French players. They're going to do well. They're in the Team GL for a reason because they're extremely talented players, but they kind of get lumped into this kind of group, you would say, where people aren't necessarily going to, maybe the French community themselves will pay attention more to them because it's French community with French players. But as far as international appeal, that's going to go to more kind of like the more streamer personality or those who perform generally well throughout recent competitions. So that's my take on it. But let's go through the player lineup really one more time just to make sure. So we have Solari. That's going to be Carl Jr. Pack. That's crazy. That lineup there should be scary for everybody. The fact that you have two of arguably the best players in the TMGL scene is kind of crazy to have. So that's going to be a big one. We'll go, instead of right, we'll go left. We'll go to G1 with Gwen and Binks again. I think they're a really good pair. Gwen and Binks are actually really good. Binks especially has done really well for himself, especially this year. And I think he and Gwen are going to be a really good pair. The interesting part is that G1's an American org with their NFL money that they're coming into Trackmania with.
Oh, really?
Nobody has, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of G1 before, but I had to look them
Nope.
up.
No, I actually have no idea. I mean, I knew they were Americans,
Yeah.
but the NFL money and that they're actually kind of big organization. I was like, who are they? I thought they were like a small organization, but now it's like, wow.
Well, I wouldn't even call them a big organization, and they're gonna hate me for it if they're listening. Sorry, but like in terms of the American esports scene, they are not a name that anybody knows. Their teams are primarily in Call of Duty and Halo, which are very small esports scenes, just kind of like Trackmania. So we can't say like Trackmania is bigger. There's no comparison. Call of Duty and Halo are way bigger, just because their casual base is insanely way higher. And their hardcore base kind of grows from that as well, kind of same as Trackmania, but it's just bigger overall. But as far as esports organization, majority, you could ask majority of Americans, you could probably go to 95% of Americans, they would have no idea who G1 is. And I had to like kind of dig and see where they came from, who was kind of behind it and everything. And then I started looking at their streamers and their investors. And it was majority of NFL personalities. And that's that makes more sense. That kind of makes sense where the money's coming from. How they got into Trackmania though is really interesting. I'm assuming maybe it's something kind of like who was it that came into the Trackmania community? Oh, it was Arcadia. Hello. Arcadia, they kind of came into Trackmania community because they just were playing Trackmania. They were like, "This is cool. It'd be cool to have a tournament in Trackmania and everything." And I'm assuming maybe the owner of G1 or maybe somebody in G1 was playing Trackmania and they're like, "Yo, they're having a pro scene here. We should get involved with this."
Yeah, I mean, the bigger the game that it gets, the best. I mean, the more opportunities that we will have to get like teams like this one, getting into the TMGL and stuff like that, and the more promotion that the game will have because they already have their own communities, right? So if you show the game to other communities, they would probably come to our community. That is how people mostly start getting into Trackmania. It's like vocally speaking about the game to others.
Mm.
So if that happened, with this organization, like someone from there started playing the game and they were like, hey, maybe we can invest sometimes on this game and maybe we can have a team here and let's see how it goes, then I believe other organizations start doing the same. I don't think that Trackmania is about a game to have an esport team on. It's a super exciting to see this game becoming a esports scene. Like getting bigger, and the games and the teams and the players are so interesting. It's so exciting. So I hope with teams like this, G1, getting into Trackmania, I hope this opens the door for more teams from the US, actually from America, to start investing in Trackmania and the game itself.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of one of those things where, and we'll have more weeks to talk about in the future because we'll kind of have to move on to the next team. But I totally agree,
Yeah.
and I think especially with the U.S. being now the largest player base in Trackmania, it's now time that maybe some American teams start popping up and actually solidifying that player base. Because right now you have the casual player base in the U.S. Now you need to start seeing some more competitive stuff, and I see some competitive stuff. I'm actually in some of the state discords because I used to live in the States before I moved to Germany. I lived in Arizona for 10 years. And I'm in their Discord and everything, and they're doing tournaments. They're trying to get stuff started, so hopefully down the road they'll be able to do something a little bit bigger. But yeah, I agree completely on that. But let's keep going. Shorty, this will be you because I mean, you're German, so therefore you know the Germans, right? But
I do know the Germans.
you do know the Germans. Yeah. So big international gaming. Masa and Grenadi. Honestly, fan favorite in my opinion. Like, yeah, Mime Elcon. They're also fan favorite, but Masa Grenadi is another fan favorite team. I think for sure.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Masa is like one of the very old powerhouses. He's playing Trackmania also professionally for so long. He's been at the top for so many years by now. He even playing for how was it called, Dignitas back then, which was
Yes.
like what basically the biggest and best team back then, together with Acer. I mean, I don't know the statistics, how many times Acer won, how many times Dignitas won, but I would probably I would bet on that Dignitas won more, but that's not important anymore. And Granadi really just started playing Trackmania, like Stadium at least, with the new Trackmania. He's always been a really good player already before, but he mainly played United. Obviously makes sense as a wheel player, right? But since the start of the new Trackmania, he's been grinding Stadium a lot, and he's already been decent at Stadium before, and now he's really insane. I think the main thing that I always found interesting about Granadi is his consistency. I'm not sure if it's like, I mean, obviously it's not only the wheel, but I do think that one of the advantages of him having the wheel is his steering is obviously super precise, and that just kind of helps him being more consistent, especially with these kind of identities that we have in Trackmania for the ends. I think that is gonna be not bad. And I think they do complement each other as well. Like, you can already see on Twitter how they are talking to each other, how they are having fun bantering around. And I think being friends in real life as well does obviously also help you since you're playing together.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of go through this season. I actually have more concerns than I do hope for them, which is kind of sad. It might seem a little critical, but just kind of knowing the history of kind of Massa, especially in the recent years with TMGL, and Grenady too, to an extent. Grenady, I feel like, has a higher skill ceiling than Massa. I think Massa is a really good player, but I feel that Massa honestly can tilt himself into an oblivion, and that's really bad, especially since
Yeah.
he's reached the top before. And especially in this last year, I feel like, and maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, and if you do, wow, really rude. Anyways, no, but I feel like he in this last year definitely underperformed, and I feel that it's kind of been difficult for him to keep that winning performance that he had that one year that he won TMGL. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see whether Massa is able to return to that form that he used to have, or is he going to get tilted and just tilt into oblivion? And then Grenady, I feel like, does feed off of Massa, just kind of seeing their interactions with one another. I do feel like Grenady. Oh, we lost Shorty. Hopefully, he will be able to get back here. But yeah, Grenady, I do feel like feeds off of Massa, and I think eventually that may affect Grenady and his performance on based on how Massa is doing. Because I feel like Grenady on his own can handle himself. Welcome back, Shorty. I do feel like Grenady can handle himself. But yeah, I think it's kind of dependent on Massa because I feel like Massa is kind of more the captain here. All right, moving on. It is Sinners. I will just go ahead and give a quick Sinners intro. It's Kappa between two classic Trackmania Grand League players, players that have been around in the Trackmania scene way longer before Trackmania 2020. And honestly, super nice guys. They are representing the Czech-Slovak team of Sinners. Sinners is an org fully based. And we lost Shorty again. Oh, and he's
Oh, he
back
came
again.
back.
Shorty is having internet issues. But yeah, no, Sinners is an org based in Czechia. They represent the Czech-Slovak community. They are also the team that I happen to be casting for. So if you want to check out my stream, you can check out my personal stream for that. And yeah, that they are honestly, I think they are the underdogs. I think they are the dark horse. Many people are already rating them as last place in this group of 8. I think that's doing them a bit of disservice because Kappa is a very talented player, and Tween, while maybe not necessarily at the level of Kappa, I do believe that Tween is able to play at that level, and I think he's entirely capable of it. So I think Kappa and Tween really are going to surprise some people. I don't think that Kappa and Tween are just going to get lamb blasted like people are predicting. I've already seen some predictions that they're just going to be 8th place, and I just don't see a world where that's going to happen. I would see that more likely from maybe one of the other teams. I could even see that from Big, where Big may have, like I said, Big is going to be kind of a feast or famine team. They're either going to be really good, they're going to perform really well, or they're just going to have a really hard time and struggle this year. And again, it's all just kind of based on myself. So that's how I feel that Sinners is. But now let's go to the other side of the column with Mime and Elcon, another fan favorite team. And Lime, you were talking about how you were interested in watching them and how you're kind of rooting for them. So
Yeah.
what about them does it make you like excited for them?
You know, it with Elcon is that he's so effortless good at the game, you know? And when you see Mime, they make it seem like the game is so easy, you know? But they pull off these world records, they pull off this performance. And I was like, wow, they actually have the potential, even more Elcon, because this is going to be the first time that we're all going to see him competing and seeing him, for example, versus Muda or versus Carl Jr., I think Elko has the same game level as them. So this is gonna be more of a competitive stuff that I'm super excited to see, because I believe they have the level to compete against them and do a good performance. Maybe overperform them. So yeah, I'm super excited. I know them both are the memers. They both get well with each other. They support each other. Um,
They also
I'm
know
not
how to get
scared
in
of.
drama with each other.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go after for that, but I have the feeling that they're gonna perform really well. It's gonna be on my top three. They are number one. And I always like to root for the youngs,
Yeah.
for the rookies. Elkon is the rookie here. He has no experience in playing TMGL, so I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Mime as well. I'm excited to see them play and give an amazing performance that I know everyone's gonna enjoy.
As long as they don't cause any more drama.
I
All right.
was long.
We will
Let's
see
go,
about that.
guys.
We'll see about that. But if again, we have other topics too. After this, after we'll go through the player lineup, we'll talk about we'll kind of show you the last matches on Sunday, and then we'll go next to our next topic, which is TM Awards. Although we are already like 30 minutes through, so maybe we just may skip to the Jnic video, because I don't. Oh, okay. Never mind.
No,
Production is telling me we're doing TM Awards whether I like it or not. Really
We
mad.
should.
Anyways, Carmine Corp, Bren Otak. Honestly, I like this duo. Bren, maybe not his former younger self, but Bren is still a really good player. Competes with the top. Otak, I mean, also a really good player, but I think in this case it's kind of more heavier on Bren. Would you agree with that, Shorty?
I have no clue. I think the thing is, in this kind of format, I think it's really hard and really difficult to have any kind of idea of saying, yeah, this player is gonna be good and this one is gonna be bad. Obviously, you do have some underdogs, maybe by name, but overall, just the sheer format of everything it's obvious. It's the first time you have 2 versus 2 now.
Yeah.
You have identities which really decide a lot on the maps. Like if you're good at the identity, you can easily catch some up. I mean, obviously there are some maps where you can also lose a lot of time before the identity already, but in general, the identity is the hardest part of the map usually. And even without that, you also have pick and ban now, which you have to take into consideration because some players, obviously like Kappa and Tween, obviously they practice the other styles as well, but they are in principle or used to be main tech players. So maybe they have some weaknesses in other styles that certain players that started with the new game, for example, and always have been focused on all the styles have. So I don't know. I would still say that Brian is probably the better player than Otak right now, but in the end, it's only about the performance.
I'm getting mocked in chat. But no, I agree. And I think it's kind of the same going over to BDS, kind of not knowing how it's going to be. But Afi and Arl, they've been in TMGL before. This is nothing new to them. They're getting picked up by BDS, and it was kind of an obvious pick. I think everybody kind of expected them to end up in BDS together. And so overall, I don't want to like skip them and say that they're not important, but I want to kind of get moving forward here. But yeah, Afi and Arl I think are kind of in the same place as Carmine Corp, where we don't really know where they're going to end up. And it'll be interesting to see how they do. They did really well in the showdown, but again, the showdown is really no litmus test for what's going to happen. Now, more interesting topic in the final team: Mutta and Solja, however you want to pronounce it. I'll say Solja
I think it's Soldier, but I'm not sure.
it's probably Solja because like in the US it's Soldier Boy, so I'd assume it's Solja.
Oh, yeah.
But but yeah, Mutta and we'll say Solja, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So Mudda and Solja, this duo I feel like is probably the most, or at least everybody perceives it as the most lopsided duo, because from the feedback that I've heard, from the feedback that I've read, people feel that Solja and Mudda are somewhat of a mismatch with one another. In the showdown, Solja did really well and actually carried Mudda in like several maps. But overall, Mudda is, many would consider to be the better player, which I think they would be perfectly correct in that assumption. I do think Mudda is overall the better player just based on statistics alone. But Solja definitely has a lot more to prove on this duo. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think the same, or do you disagree with the populace?
I think that also in a team, when you're competing, you have to have synergy.
Yeah.
You know, synergy is really important when it comes to competing. I don't know how Mura and Sulja are getting together, and when it comes to practicing for TMGL communication and stuff. But I do know that Mura has this way of approaching people, this way of teaching people, and trying to have a really nice communication with others that I think, and his mental also, the way that he managed his mental anytime that he's tilted and stuff. It's a really good way of approaching the competition, and I think that also helps him on having a partner now when competing for TMGL. And it's a plus that I don't know if any other of the teams have the same person that is so prepared mentally for a competition. You know, I think they don't. They are not so shown on social media, and maybe people have their doubts about how they're gonna perform. But in my opinion, I think they're gonna show us something that we're not expecting so much, and I think their performance is gonna be as top as they have usually performed in the past. And I'm hoping for a good surprise for the both of them, their performance and their synergy, and yeah, basically that.
Oh. I want to answer a quick question really quickly in the chat. We'll do Q&A at the end for sure, but somebody did ask a question that was how much TMWT is about teamwork. For me, from my personal viewpoint, and then Shorty, I'll hand it to you because I think you have a better viewpoint. But for me, I think it does matter. I think you can rely on individual skill, and it is still a game about individual skill because at the end of the day, you doing the best is going to be a better result for your team overall than relying on somebody else to do the work for you.
Mhm.
That being said, you have to make sure that not only are you doing your best, but your duo has the synergy. And when we mean synergy, unfortunately, it's not like League of Legends where like everybody's reading each other's minds and you have the strategy and like you know what you're gonna do and you're gonna hit Baron and towers and you're gonna get the gold minions and all that stuff and you're gonna gank and you know everything. You got it down. It's nothing like that. Synergy here is really about making sure that you are keeping good vibes when you're talking to each other, even if they are talking to each other. Some of these duos may not even talk to each other in the matches. They may not even talk to each other voice wise. Who knows what they're kind of doing? We're all assuming that they're just going to be sitting in a voice call together, or maybe in a room together if they're like rooming together. In that regard, but some teams may opt to not do that at all. And really, the synergy comments is more about making sure that you're just kind of feeling in the same mood. You're both on your A game. That's really about as much synergy as you're going to get. But if you're consistently finishing first and your teammate is finishing fourth, there's a mismatch going on in that duo. But at the same time, you have that advantage for your team because at least you're doing the best. But you also have that added pressure on the flip side where you are now required and essentially being expected upon to continue to perform at that performance level. So there's a lot of give and take, I think, when it comes to that. But Shorty, what do you think?
I think overall, what you can definitely say is that teamwork and synergy in Trackmania is less important than in other games because you don't have any direct influence on each other, not with the opponents, not with your teammates. So if I crash, that technically doesn't have any influence on you directly because it doesn't really matter because you want to drive as good as you want. Obviously, there is some saving or risking involved depending on what position you are. But overall, no matter if your teammate crashes or your opponent crashes, you do want to finish first, no matter what. So in that regard, it doesn't really matter how your teammate is, but I do think that especially in the long run, that the more you are in sync with your teammate, the more you're gonna.
Oh, we lost the
Oh, you cut
shorty.
out.
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you. Try again.
Yeah, where did it stop?
You stopped like 5 seconds ago, so it wasn't too much that you missed.
Okay, so yeah, so in general, not that much, but especially in the long run, it does matter a lot, of course, because you do want to stay both motivated and you do want to stay in a positive headspace as much as possible during matches. So when you are two friends, also in real life, and not just two players playing together because you're both good, then it's gonna be a lot easier not starting to get in a negative thought process when your teammate is not performing or when you are not performing because you know how it is, right? You understand each other better and you respect that from the other player. So you know what I mean? Like if you
Yeah.
don't like the other guy and he starts crashing, then automatically you're gonna be like, oh man, fuck this guy. Why do I have to play with him? But if you are friends, then you're just not gonna think about it as much as you would otherwise then. So in the long run, by having the same goals as well and approaching them together, I think some synergy is obviously there. But I guess you could argue that there's no synergy at all needed. But
Yeah.
in practice, there's always some synergy playing around somewhere, at least to some degree.
Yeah, I think even just like if you play matchmaking with your friends, and then we'll move on to the next topic. When you play matchmaking with your friends, like if you and your friends are not feeling the game, you're gonna feel it, and it's gonna affect your performance. If your friend is
Yes.
tilted, if your teammate is tilted, you're gonna become tilted as well, unless you just have an insanely strong mental. It doesn't matter what video game you play. So that is where the synergy does come in. It's about having the same mental approach to what you're doing. And that's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for some of these teams, especially like you said, where some of these teams, these are friends playing with each other. And if there becomes any disagreement or any type of tension between, that could easily throw that duo off their game, and it can affect their performance, because in Trackmania you have to be super focused. You have to do constant near misses on almost every element. You have to be able to think ahead of time what mechanic you're going to have to execute next. And it's a very technical balance that you're going to have to make with keeping your nerves in check. So all right, so now we are going to move on to the Sunday. We're going to go over these really quickly. So Sunday matches is going to be Alliance versus ITB, Solari versus BDS, Big versus Sinners. That one I get to cast it. That one's going to be really fun. And then match of the day is going to be Carmine Corp versus G1. Interesting match of the day. I think that one is interesting in the fact that we have kind of two unknown elements. For French players going against each other, you have Gwen, you have Binks, like you have really good players going against each other, but nobody knows how that one is going to turn out. So definitely make sure you check in on those games. You see the times there; those are all in Central European time. But now, before we go into the TM Awards, just as a heads up for those who have joined, thank you guys so much for watching. This will be also streamed to Spotify later on, so if you ever want to come back and listen, you can do that as well. We'll also have the VODs here on our Twitch channel. And in the future, we'll have guests. So in the future coming weeks, we'll have special guests. Maybe not every week, but every other week, we'll try to get as a guest in when we can. But we'll try to get more people in to have their opinions and everything. But yeah, upcoming, as you can see on the bottom, we're going to be discussing the team awards, and then we got drama. We're going to be discussing the drama that occurred over this last weekend. Some people may say it's over with already, but I say no, it's not, because there were some problems that were not correctly addressed. And,
Oh no.
and we have some things, at least I have some things that I have to say about it, because I didn't like what happened. But before that, let's go through TM Awards.
Yeah, let's talk about something positive first.
Yeah, let's talk about something positive before we start molding. So yeah, we are. So if you haven't noticed already, the TM Awards are happening right now, with the categories each. If you haven't voted on them, that's cool, but you can still vote on them right now. If you weren't able to be in the suggestion phase, honestly, wow. But you can vote on it at least, so you can at least pick your favorite. You still have time. You have all the way to February, I believe, before the voting closes. So make sure that you are there. And there's still at least, like, I think 8 other categories that still have yet to be announced yet. We have Community Person of the Year. We'll just go through the list of what awards are available. We don't need to go through each person. You can find this on your own. They have descriptions of what each person has done or what they've contributed, as well as their YouTube videos and whatnot. Yes, thank you, production, for clicking on that. So they have different things that they will show you here. And yeah, definitely check out the website. You can also check it out on Twitter through TM News. They are the ones who are hosting it. Or you can go, is it tmnews.com production? Is that what it is? It's trackmania.news is the website for the TM Awards, so definitely you can check through that. All right, so Community Person of the Year is one, Social Creator Video of the Year, Streamer of the Year, Caster of the Year. I was not selected for Caster of the Year. I'm not salty. Skin of the Year, Skinner of the Year, Photographer of the Year, Movie Maker, Map, and Mapper. Yeah, thank you for highlighting the caster.
You know what happened that I was reading a few days ago with the voting phase of this TM Awards. Is that there are some categories that will have more time for people to vote than the last one that is going to be announced later.
Correct.
And I was like, did they fix that, or is it still that way? I have no idea. I just read that and I was like, oh yeah, this is an issue, because what if one people that was announced first and they're going to have more votes than the one that is going to be announced later on. Like, how are people going to vote in one day? Who, if you get announced as a candidate to win the award, how much time do you have to advertise for people to vote for you? And I was like, that is a thing, you know. I haven't voted for anyone. I'm gonna wait until the last moment to see all the categories and all the people, and then I'm gonna show my vote. Yeah.
So yeah, so the last categories are going to be is the beginning of the phase started in January 8th, but the end of the voting is going to be 31st January, as you see highlighted on your screen. That is when it's ending, and then the award show is going to be February 4th, hosted by Turbo and Jnic. Honestly, good on them. That's cool. They get to go to a full like studio and everything. It's going to be like some actual cool like live show in a studio. Low-key kind of jealous about that. But
I really like how the production quality is just going up in Trackmania, no matter what you're watching.
Finally.
Yeah, finally, that's very true. Finally, I mean,
and then we go back to handing our mainstream over to streamers instead of growing our own channel. You heard it here first.
Yeah, there is another thing, but
we're not talking about drama yet, huh?
We're
drama later.
I'm itching. I'm itching to get to those points, but yeah, we have other weeks to talk about that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I think overall, I can actually provide some interesting input. I'm actually a jury for some of these categories, but they are categories that have not been released yet.
You're a jury? Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm jury for some of these categories. I will not reveal what I'm jury for, Honestly, I probably would afterwards because I don't really care if people judge me because some of these categories I really didn't even have a say in. But yeah, so like this, the TM Awards, I have a major criticism of the TM Awards, and I feel that there was a desperate push to find just people to be jury. That's why I became jury because they were just desperate and I'm trash. So therefore they wanted some trash person's opinion. But no, they really did just kind of grab random people to become jury. And I think this hurts the TM Awards more than it helps. And eventually, what I will personally be suggesting for them in the future, and I hope if they're hearing, I hope they take this with like the understanding that I want to be helpful in this and not just criticize. But I think it's important that when you have a jury, the jury knows what the topic is and they have experience, at least some experience in the topic that they're being a jury for. And I think a easier way to do that would be those who are nominated um, are automatically sent as jury for the following year. That also means that they're not able to be nominated for that following year. I think that would be a fairer way to be able to not only get more nominees through into the team awards, but it would also have people who are actually in those specific categories that have actual experience and knowledge in those categories, nominating people who actually deserve it because they know the individuals who are doing the work for those specific categories. So I think it's a good way of sharing it.
Okay, but now I definitely want to go into that topic because, funnily enough, I have been a judge. Not this year, but have been a judge, I think, 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row. And one of those years, I've also been in a kind of leading position. So not only was I judge, but I was also involved kind of in the decision making on how the voting is gonna work and everything. So I fully agree with the idea of getting people that have knowledge in the categories. One of the main issues there, sadly, is that it's difficult to get those people. Not only do you want to get those people, but you want someone that you can also trust. So you don't just want to get a skinner to like be judged for the skinning when you may not be able to trust that guy. So I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult either way because being a judge sounds like, yeah, you're just gonna be. Being a judge is a lot of work, and that's one problem of getting the people in there. So it's been a big struggle every single year getting enough judges anyway. So I can understand why even you can be a judge because depending on the category, you don't necessarily have to be a special guy at that because a lot of it is just also looking at data, more or less, kind of, if you know what I mean. Like some categories more than others, of course. But I can understand why you rather take someone that at least is going to put in the work than someone that may not put in the work but would in theory be better at it. You know, it's like theory and practice a little bit. I don't know. It's a difficult topic.
Yeah,
In theory, you would want more. In theory, you would want them to be specialists at the category, but in practice, it did not really work out so far. At least in the years I've been there as well. It's been difficult.
yeah. I mean that was kind of just my idea to it because I think the bigger issue with TM Awards is that it can kind of turn into a popularity contest even amongst the
Yes.
jury of
Yeah, kind of
yeah,
always is though. It's difficult
yeah,
to avoid that.
it kind of always is. And I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing on certain subjects, but when you have more niche topics, I guess would be the best thing. When you have more niche categories that have a specific type of group, even just like for example, streamer of the year, almost every year it's going to be the small same group of people if it's based on the fact of a popularity contest, which almost always happens in that regard. And I think in some ways that's shouldn't be necessarily the case because there are also a lot of streamers who maybe grew in that year that have a decent following now. They just may not have that super mega casual following that other streamers may potentially have. I think there's a bunch of different solutions too, but I think it's overall, I think it's more important to just, I think, yeah, I think it's better to just have somebody who has the subject knowledge or at least one person or just make the jury group smaller. I think when you try to get a large group of people to jury for multiple topics, I think that's where it also becomes an issue.
For
Yeah.
awards, like for example, streamer of the year, I saw in other places that they do, yeah, the streamer of the year, and then they do best new streamer of the year. You know, so you also take all these people that started streaming that year, and the best of them that made the most impact in the community get an award. So you don't always have this group of streamers that have been streaming for many years, you know, and they are the most popular ones. But you also have the ones that are like the new streamers that start getting into the community, and they also may have, you know, an impact, and should be rewarded for that, you know. I think it should be better to have like more niche categories into the TM awards, so you can have more people and not the same as always.
Yeah, I think just kind of bouncing off that example, like niche category, there is one category that's team of the year, but the description for that is very broad because in Trackmania you don't only have performance teams, and when I say performance team, those are teams such as like TMGL, TMCL, or just amateur teams. But you also have teams that are based on content creation. Let's take OK Boys, for example. They're technically a content creation team. They're a streamer team. They're just a group of friends, shorty, but like,
We are very good at being a team.
yeah, yeah. But technically, you guys are a streamer team,
Yeah.
or a teams like Waypoint Mapping, even Evo. Evo is not only a performance team, but we also act as a content creation team. We have a whole team of map makers, streamers, etc. But team of the year encompasses all of that. But when people think of team of the year, they honestly typically go straight to the who played the best this year in this tournament or X
Yeah.
amount of tournaments. And that's kind of an issue that is going to perpetuate in kind of more categories that aren't so necessarily clear, that probably should have been split up to like competitive team of the year versus content team of the year, something like that. And I think there's a couple other categories that could have been that way as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I think
Yeah, I think
overall, team awards though, like an improvement from last year. I don't think that they're doing anything wrong per se. There's just kinks in the armor that could probably be smoothed out for smoother experience for not only the viewers but for the jury as well. Because I think for the jury, they kind of get lost in certain topics or aspects that probably they're overthinking or shouldn't, and like there just needs to be a little bit more guidelines for them, I think, in that regard, for them not to get too lost.
I mean, I'm just happy that we do have TM Awards this year again, because I
Yeah.
do know that it's a struggle just getting this done at all, and finding people that have enough time or are willing to put enough time into it. Because on the surface level, it always sounds so easy, but if you have certain discussions about certain categories, then it really can get very difficult for, like, yeah, but then we have too many categories, but what do we do? Do we have this category? Do we do this? And sometimes we have certain rulings that work for certain categories, but for other categories this ruling would be worse than before. So I don't know. I'm not unhappy about how they did it. I do think that no matter how you do it, you're always going to run into certain problems with this
Oh yeah.
kind of, you know, um award things. You always have issues with awards, I think. I
Yeah.
feel like, because you can always view things in certain ways and in different point of views, and you can't really say that one point of view is always automatically better than the other. You can't just discuss it and find, oh yeah, this one is definitely better. Doesn't always work like that. And I'm just happy that we again have Trackmania Awards this year, and that people are putting in the work, and that the production quality is as high as it is.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that team awards is doing anything wrong. I think actually majority of the picks that the jury has done so far, I think majority of them, I would say I definitely agree with. especially caster of the year, even though I'm not in it. No, I fully expected me not to be in like caster of the year, but and I agree with all the picks that they picked. So I think the people who were nominated, they deserved it. I don't think there was really anybody that didn't necessarily deserve it. Maybe there are some picks that I feel like get overpicked just because they're the easy pick, in terms of like, hey, they're popular, so therefore they're the pick. And I think the jury should focus on more niche picks because, like, I think for me, I'll kind of explain my thought process as a jury person. Um, my thought as a jury, especially for broader general categories, is to bring out a niche style or a niche player that may not necessarily get the spotlight, but is still extremely good at what they do. Yeah, they could. You could be a typical mixed tournament player that does really well in competitions and everything. But what about players who play specifically a certain style? Let's say backwards. Who's the best backwards player of the year,
Yep.
improved or whatever, right?
Definitely
Or
me.
yeah, definitely you, right?
Definitely not Arthur. No.
Yeah, but I would say like for the biggest example for me, even though I'm not necessarily a full speed player, I come from a full speed background because Evo comes from a full speed background. And a lot of the events and content stuff that we did early on, especially in 2020 and 2021, was full speed focused. And I think it is important to highlight certain communities like that that have been around for ages, to have their shine of the spotlight, especially when there's certain players who have been insanely dominant. Specifically, one player who I will not mention has been insanely dominant throughout the entire year of full speed this year. And I feel like they should be at least, at minimum, an honorable mention rather than completely disregarded because they didn't participate in the French Cup or they didn't participate in AGE. We're supposed to encompass all players of all genres. If it's going to be a general genre of a topic, it should encompass all and not just who participated in the most tournaments that year. Although,
Yeah, but that's your point of view. I mean,
yeah,
now with TMGL, we do have a consensus of what Trackmania Esports is and what competition should, or like quote unquote should, but looks like at the high level, and how, and based off that you could totally see that, yeah, I'm
right.
not gonna look at full speed. Like, I
Now,
do like your point of view, but
I counter that though
yeah.
with hold on. Now I'll count. I'm going to counter your point though because there's player of the year and then there's amateur player of the year. So yes, there is a category
Oh yeah.
for the Trackmania Grand League players where your
Mhm.
idyllic gameplay for Trackmania Esports is there, but amateur player of the year encompasses way more than that, and I
Yeah, I
think it
guess
should.
that can be looked at way broader. Yeah, true.
Yeah,
But
because we're talking amateur
a
player
lot
of
of
the
time to
year.
look at that.
Yeah, we're not saying full speed players are pro players, no, but they do fit in that category. Ice players, dirt players. Well, there's not really any dirt players except for Insanity, I guess. Really.
I mean, in
What's
that
what is
regard, you
dirt?
should do an award for each style, you know?
Yeah, but then that's getting a little too ridiculous,
Yeah,
and we all
it's
know that.
getting too broad, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the best backwards player, best NASCAR player, best fun speed player,
Forever.
best speed fun player. Those are two different things. Don't mix them up.
Yeah. But that's what I mean though. Like, so you have your content. You basically have your category for the pro player, right? So that's the person who should be in that category. I think amateur player should, and yes, it is my perspective on this. It should encompass all because I think there should be something that highlights the niche communities because that is what keeps Trackmania alive. Trackmania is not just about the main competitions. If it was just about the main competitions, nobody would talk. Everybody would just live a different life in Trackmania. But Trackmania is about different niches, different styles. That is what Evo literally is here for. We are the community to highlight those. So maybe that's why I feel a little bit stronger about it. But I that's how I feel the award should have at least something that highlights that because I think it gets too easily caught up in who did what in the spotlight the most when there are some people who are just grinding and grinding something that they may not necessarily get recognized for. And I think they should get recognized for it. So that's it. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Forget this stupid award show. I'm done with it. No, I'm kidding.
We just do our own one next year.
Yeah. I mean,
We do an Evo award show every year. It is, but it's like troll categories of like who wore the best like pink wig or like who was the most drunk at Trackadia, that kind of stuff.
there is one thing that you can also do is like competing with these awards, because when there's a competition on awarding and stuff and how you do it.
I don't want to compete with team.
But like you push them into making the things better and looking for the best outcome possible, So if they see that you're doing this award for this person, then you're like, oh, maybe I can do the same thing. How can I do it better? How can I improve? And then you start getting better and better and better awards, and hopefully you can please everyone, even though you would never do, because it's impossible. But you get to a point into the awards of being in a certain way that everyone is like, this is the guideline for the award. It's completely reasonable to have this person nominated for this award because this is how it works,
Yeah.
And this is how everyone agreed to it. But right now with the TM Awards, I think that there has been many discussions in how it's been done and the way that people have nominated people, how the voting system is working, and how the juries are also voting. Because right now, for me, it's kind of confusing how the system is going. It doesn't seem like it is agreed by everyone, or it seems mostly like it can change at any given time. The job that they are doing and the effort that they are putting into, it's impressive. I was waiting for the awards to come out now because I was like, oh, who's gonna be nominated? But when I see the nominations and why they were nominated, I was like, this could have been better, But I'm still supporting them. I'm happy that we have the awards.
I don't know if I want multiple awards at the same time. I don't know. Every year with the awards there is discussions about them, and I feel like if you would have two awards that are trying to both do kind of the same but better than the other, I think it would get even worse in discussions. Like imagine you have two awards. We have the Evo Awards, best player of the year. Then we say Call Junior. Then the Trackmania News, they have award for best player of the year, and they say it's back. Then what the fuck do we do then? I don't know. I think that would be so messed up. I feel like I don't know. I would wish that the awards. I would ideally I would hope that there's just one awards each year, and that they strive to be as good as possible.
Yeah, I think
there's always going to be discussions at the end anyway.
And disclaimer: Evo is not going to have a competition award against TM Awards or TM News. It's not happening. But
yeah, please not.
I understand your point. I understand your point, Lime. I like in other words, you want something to kind of kick them in the butt and kind of make them sweat a little bit harder and work a little bit harder. And I can understand that. At the same time, they are doing a good job for what they are.
Oh yeah, they
have done so far. And we just have to keep the feedback going. And I think eventually it will get to a point where it gets... And also, it really is about getting more people into the space, too. The reason why they're having so many issues getting people to fill bodies in the jury and whatnot is just lack of people. So I think that
is also one thing, because, for example, I was waiting for the TM Awards, but... At the same time, I was like, okay, when it's happening, I didn't see any advertising for it, or if they were looking for people to help them, I also didn't see it. And I was like, I would like to be part of it, but I also didn't know anyone that was with the awards. I don't know who is the main person doing this. Now, for me, it's all unknown. And I'm kind of tiny bit old in the community, so I was like, who's doing that? And it's a thing, if the next year they're gonna do the awards, I would love to be part of it, to help and stuff. because I think this could be something way better and bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, to improve it,
Yeah.
But if you don't see advertisement or they don't publicly say, I mean, I don't know because I haven't seen it. But I would like for them to say like, hey, we're looking for people for this, I mean, with the jury, no, because everyone could be, hey, I can be a jury, and we have like 200 juries in the thing, and they are not experts in their topic. But if they need more people to, I don't know, discuss or decide what to do, yeah, 100% down to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
perfect.
I think we beat this horse dead already. I think we're at our wits' end with this topic, but
Yeah, but both me and Lime don't want to go where you're gonna go now.
now it's the time that I have been waiting for. I will try to be fair. I will be fair. I will preface as we get into the drama alert. If you lived under a rock for the last weekend, there was some drama that popped up in Trackmania, and when drama pops up in Trackmania, it does get kind of juicy, based on the fact that we are a very small community and everybody kind of knows everybody for the most part.
And most people like drama.
And
I
most
don't know.
people,
I feel like
Yes.
people do like drama.
like Trackmania, the community is definitely high school, and when somebody does something, everybody finds out. And yeah, so we're gonna hop into it here, but I want to preface and say that the views that are expressed in this next section are of our personal views and not of Evo or for me sinners. It is my personal view on this. I will try to be as fair as possible, and I will preface by saying everybody sucks here in this situation. But we're gonna go into a little bit why somebody sucks or people suck in this situation. But Chris, if you can go ahead, production, sorry, can go ahead and pull up the video. So Jnic ran into a little bit of issues with.
Let me start off by saying sorry.
If you
This is
can
not
pause the
going to
video
be
really
as
quickly,
fun of a
please,
video as
before
we usually do. This
go
is
into
quite a
this.
serious one.
Thank you. So yeah, so Jnic came out with a video over this last weekend, describing some discrepancies he had with the community, specifically one individual of the name of Elcon from ITB. And we're going to get into that here. But basically, the gist of it all is that Jnic was receiving some targeted harassment towards himself, which he found enough to make a drama about it, to the point where he wanted everybody to become aware of how he felt. And we're going to dive into that. So, Chris, go ahead and then pause at 23.
Hi guys, let me start off by saying sorry. This is not going to be as fun of a video as we usually do. This is quite a serious one. I'm here to spread some awareness about some growing toxicity problems that are happening in the Trackmania community, and you might not see it, but let me show you. Harassment, elitism, and toxic behavior are all happening way more than you think in certain close groups, from streamers and professional players and their respective communities. I understand that people want their memes.
All right, so preface with what he's wanting to talk about here. He's wanted to talk about toxicity within the community, within streamers, players. There's an elitism in the game, and he is wanting to let you know that it's happening and what's happening. So with that, go ahead and skip to 105.
Made aware of other people that have suffered way worse than I have. So the toxicity coming towards me comes mainly from a specific streamer and a Trackmania World Tour pro player, namely Elcon21. This has been going on for more than half a year. I've been aware of all of it, and I'm absolutely not the only one who's been targeted in this community. Going in there does not seem like a happy place to be. In this video, I will just show you screenshots personally regarding me, because I don't, once again, want to include other people, even though I know that players, streamers, and even Ubisoft staff have been heavily targeted by some communities. So this all started last summer.
So making the claim that there's been some heavily targeted not criticism, but heavily targeted harassment towards himself, and not only himself, but others are being targeted as well, by maybe not necessarily just Elcon, but others have been targeted, streamers as well. So overall, So far, okay, we got what we're here for. We understand the issue. We're concerned. We're here for it. I'm concerned. This is a problem that I will agree with. I do agree that there is toxicity within Trackmania, but maybe not to the degree that we're necessarily expressing. I think it's over exaggerated to an extent. Now, targeted harassment is not okay. I'm not condoning that whatsoever. Yeah, thanks forever for telling me my casts suck. Honestly, can I report you as a team manager to yourself that you are bullying me? But yeah, I don't think targeted harassment is okay. If you understand the joke, I think that's fine. Maybe sometimes people get a little bit annoyed by it, but also you have to understand that as a public figure, you are going to get harassed. Sorry, not sorry. When you gain a large following, you will be a target of positive and negative. Now, whether that's warranted or not is a different story. Whether it's coordinated harassment, that is also a different story. And we'll get into that here. So let's go ahead and resume.
With the thanks Jnic copy pasta, it was a meme about my casting in Trackmania. Not that bad, pretty harmless. So even though I don't think there was any malicious intent at first, it spiraled into some personal harassment. In October, I tried personally contacting Elcon and asking what was going on. Quickly. Instead of taking it seriously.
All right, so he was receiving targeted harassment, and he'll go into some further screenshots where I would say definitely he's in the right, where it's not okay, where people are literally going into his chat trying to intentionally get banned, say that he's attributing things to him that necessarily aren't true, and overall just having a massive, like, I don't know how to describe it, but basically everybody just getting up on him, specifically from this community. And it is a public Discord. It was these messages are public, so anybody could see this if they were in Elcon's Discord. But he does approach Elcon here, and Elcon just kind of says, "Nah, honestly, I think we're just kind of trolling. It's all in good fun." And yeah, honestly, I don't really think it's that big of an issue. And Jnic in this message is like, "Okay, cool. Well, thanks anyways." Go ahead and resume.
He blamed his community for just being memers and took no responsibility as the streamer who facilitated it, and also he actively participated in it. So 3 months after I texted him, things are getting worse, and that brings us to the present day, where now we've gotten to the point where his community will insult me pretty much for whatever reason. Luckily, I'm a guy with pretty thick skin, and I don't get offended as easily. Right, but if this happens to somebody...
So it continues after he messages him, and he's saying that he's a guy who doesn't get offended. It's pretty thick skin. I find that comment slightly ironic, because if that was the case, I don't think he would be affected by this from the get-go. I think he would have never made any comment regarding this. I think that's just somewhat of a flaw of an argument to try to put some armor on yourself, but that is how he feels. He's entitled to that feeling. Yeah. And then he eventually he will go into this next section here where he's going to state that streamers and pros are responsible for their communities and should police them as such. And then he talks about an esports player's responsibility going forward. If you can skip to 255.
Contracted by an organization representing a brand, you need to be more responsible than this. You're a figure in the esports scene. You need to act like it. So let me speak directly to you, Elcon. The only reason I'm making this video is because you don't want...
You're an esports player or a streamer. It doesn't, and he says this in general. It doesn't matter if you're an esports player or a streamer. You're responsible for your community. You should not, you should be policing what your community says. You shouldn't allow your community to basically harass another individual. I actually agree with this. You see this in celebrity culture where you might see fans of each different celebrities fighting over who's the better celebrity, or vice versa. This is very general, broad subject. So you see this in different levels. Johnny Depp in that case, where the fan bases were going against each other. It happens, and it can even happen in smaller communities like this one. So I do agree overall with his statement. I agree that what has happened to him personally is not necessarily okay. I'm in full agreement until we get to this next part.
Want to seem to resolve this conflict in private. You've made no efforts to moderate it, and you've partaken in it yourself systematically. When you didn't want to listen to me or change anything,
Keep going.
I asked my friend Virtual to contact you. Your response
Okay.
was a K,
Right here.
as conceived.
And I'll let Shorty and Lime jump in after this, after I make this comment. If you... Now, I'm not sure if there was any messages after this. He doesn't state that, but I have an issue with this. You approached Elcon, told him that you had an issue with it. He kind of brushes you off, okay. It is then your responsibility, because in that initial conversation, there was essentially an understanding that, hey, they're just memers. I really don't think it's that intense. And you kind of feign agreement with like, okay, just like, please chill it out. It increases, it continues. Your next step is to go back to that person and tell them, hey, I've noticed this increasing. This is not getting any better. Your community is actively coming into my chat and saying grotesque or awful things about me, how you want to say it. That is what your next step should be. But instead, you go to your friend and have him play police for you. Yeah. Shorty Lime.
With this whole thing, the way that it was handled, I was like, no. I am in pro of him standing up for himself. The whole situation is bad. As myself, I've been bullied and everything. I feel how he feels, But this exact part where Virtual gets himself into this, I find it questionable. Because even if he is a friend of him, a friend of Jnic, if I have issue with someone, I'm not gonna tell my friend, hey, can you tell them something? It's like, why? Why? Even if my friend wants to defend me, my issue is with that other person. It's a 1v1, Now, I can also understand that, for example, Virtual has the experience of managing a huge community like the one he has, And I also understand that maybe from his point of view, he's trying to teach Elcon the things that he shouldn't do to not lose his community and his position on where he is, Like saying, hey, don't make this mistake because it can cost you your career or something, as someone that has the experience. But also, in the same point, I am like, if no one asks you for your advice, you just stay where you are and don't say anything. So it's kind of a contradiction of how everything has been done and how everything went. I'm really happy that the situation now is being handled and is fixed,
Yeah,
but this is something that I believe we all have to learn about it, because this community, Trackmania community, is growing. Okay, I believe this is not gonna be the first time that we're gonna have something like this. The three of us that we are here in the podcast, and there's some people that are on the chat, are also content creators, are also streamers, and they also have their communities. And I think this is something that we all should take responsibility for, look out for the other one, check their community, check what's going on. What's it called? Keep your community out of the toxicity, I think a meme is a meme, But when a meme is harassment, then you stop it, you know. And this is the prime example of what happens when you don't stop something.
Yeah,
Now someone is. I mean, Meloja is saying that asking a friend to step in is bad. No, I don't think that is
so
bad.
Can I hop in here really quickly?
Yeah.
Because this comment has popped up multiple times already. Asking a friend to step in. This is a very, in my opinion, a very teenagery high school viewpoint.
Yes.
I think that you as an adult, claiming that you're an adult and claiming that you are thick-skinned and that you don't get offended or hurt, should also produce that in action by you only gave the person you gave him a very light-hearted message saying that, hey, kind of bothered, could you fix this? He kind of retorts back, says, whatever. You have to be. The thing is, this is Trackmania, and this is European culture in general. You have to be literal with each other. You can't beat around the bush and say that I'm not feeling comfortable around this. I mean, hey, he should still at that first moment. He should. I'm not disagreeing that Elcon should have fixed it right then and there. I agree that Elcon is in the wrong here with his community. He should have policed his community. I'm not saying that Elcon is in the right at all here. I am saying that the way this is going about is incorrect, because instead of trying to resolve it privately like you were attempting to do, you then looped in the largest creator in Trackmania, because he's your personal friend, to basically make a bigger claim of a call to action or a call to authority to get somebody's attention, when you didn't even attempt a second attempt and try to resolve it a second time. Now, after that second time, if he's not listening, have at it. Make your video, get virtual. At least you tried a second time. But we're talking, you only tried once, and a very, in my personal opinion, a very frail attempt to get to somebody to stop. You should have been more forthright. You should have stated your issues. I think bringing in a friend isn't necessarily a bad thing, but timing is everything. And I think at this point in time, the timing was horrid, and you're weaponizing this individual essentially. Whether virtual did it or not, that is a weaponizing of that individual to throw around their influence to basically force things to happen. I've seen it happen before, even not related to streamer versus streamer drama. I've seen it happen and simple things such as subreddits, where streamers did not like something being on a subreddit, and then they started bat phoning people to get it removed off stuff. That's all as far as I'm going to get on that subject. But I think the timing was wrong, and I think it could have been done a much more adult-like way. If we're going to make claims about being an adult, there's a better way to go about this. All right, Shorty, sorry. I know you've been wanting to hop in here.
I don't even know if I do want to hop in here, but I feel like, apart from, I mean, I fully agree with what you're saying. I maybe would have tried to keep it a little bit shorter, because that's something I've learned in the other podcast. Beating the horse too long is, it happens easily, because you want to say. But anyway, what annoys me from the very beginning, I watched the video already, I think yesterday for the first time, and just now I also watched the things. I couldn't read all of the messages perfectly, but what I'm still failing to fully understand and get the picture of. So what exactly did Erkun even do? Like, he kind of started this meme of writing "Thanks Jnic." Is that what he did?
Yeah, it's basically
what exactly does "Thanks Jnic" even exactly mean? Like, he didn't even specify that. So
it's an action command that pulls up a copy pasta of basically "Thanks Jnic for your information." Blah 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 blah. I don't remember the exact copy pasta, but basically it's just an action command in their chat that pulls up a copy pasta about Jnic regarding his casting, which is totally fair. I think as a caster and somebody as a public figure, you're going to receive criticism and people memeing about you. I think
that doesn't even sound bad to me. Like, if it's not
but that wasn't the issue.
Actual harassment. Like, if the meme isn't like "Jnic, shut the fuck up" or stuff like that. If it's just "thanks for information," like sarcasmically.
I
But
don't
that's
think
totally fair. They don't like Jnic apparently. They don't like him casting. Yeah, fair. Like that's an opinion you're fair to
Forever
have.
doesn't like me casting, and he tells me all the time. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he does that jokingly, but you know what I mean. Even if it's not jokingly, and even if you really don't like him casting, then what is bad about even if you obviously maybe shouldn't promote it as a streamer, but if that's still your opinion, then you're also entitled to that opinion. And if that's the only thing, I don't even understand why he contacted Alcon just for that. I mean, maybe okay, contacting him, yes.
okay. Yeah, so there was some.
Yeah, okay, that's more than
yeah, there
that's
was
information I lack, but
so
that's also
production-
information the video should have.
They didn't hear production. So
Yeah, they didn't.
production just kind of clarified, and I knew about this too, but it's a good thing he clarified it to remind me. There are additional images that he doesn't provide in this video. There's a whole file dump of different images where there's some more spicier comments that are made by not only Elcon but Mime as well. Unfortunately, is implicated in this as well. Where I think Mime's comments are really just very like, honestly, not even that serious. But Elcon was participating in this to somewhat of a heavier handed degree, to the point where they're talking about like his streams giving eye cancer. Like there are things that are definitely said that are definitely messed up in my opinion, and I fully am not okay with that either. I would not be okay with that.
You should not post anything like that in public. Also not in private, but at least not in public.
Now, personally for me, I could care less what people say about me. That's an actual truth. I wouldn't get offended by it. If you were trying to attack my credibility, that'd be a different story. But if it was just like you're making playground insults against me and my content, I wouldn't care less, man. I have bigger fish to fry in my life. But yeah, I think overall, I think it's something that Jnic probably could have ignored, but for him, he just couldn't ignore it. And I mean, to be fair, it wasn't that it stayed in the Discord. I think if it would have just stayed in the Discord, it'd be a completely different story. But the fact that it bled over into Jnic stream actively is what really became the bigger issue. So and there were people trying to get actively banned in Jnic stream as well. Now the mime thing was out of context as well. And I also want to preface that Mime and Elcon did not get out of this scot-free. They were dealt some internal dealings. I will not get into that, but basically they did not get away scot-free. They did have to make some changes to their PR essentially, and make some concessions that affected ITB, because Jnic is right. When you are doing this, especially as a pro player, you have a responsibility, public relations responsibility, to have a clean PR, to make sure that you're not involved in any drama, that you're not stepping on people's tails and creating a following that's going to kind of raise pitchforks and go mess with other people. But yeah, this situation is messy all around, and I don't want to like focus on this part, like kind of the virtual part. This is wrong timing. That's all I gotta say. I think
you know what happens with this? What I get the impression of is this was just a high school issue.
Yes.
How it was handled, because it's the same thing as when you have a class, and then one classmate is being annoying to you, and you go to the classmate and say, hey, can you stop? And the classmate doesn't stop, and then they're like, but I have a friend that has like more power than me somehow, so he can intervene in this, instead of the situation getting bigger, instead of going directly to someone that is managing that person. In this case, in the classroom, you could go to the teacher and say, hey, you know what? I tried to talk this with this person. This person is not collaborating. Can you do something? That is the conduct that you have to do when situations like this happens, because this doesn't only hurt Jnic himself. This doesn't only hurt Elcon and his team and everything, but it also hurts us as a community.
True.
Because this can happen again, and people are gonna take this as an example, and they're gonna be like, oh, well, if this creator did this, then maybe I can do the same thing. When this situation happens, I personally don't think that this is how situations like this should be handled.
Shorty,
You have to have a conduct on how to handle situations like this. This is a really bad
would you
example.
agree, Shorty, with that?
To a certain extent, I definitely agree. I think the video definitely does show that Jnic may not be as thick-skinned as he says in the video, because I mean, he probably. I'm not going to say that he is like weak-skinned, because obviously as a creator, he does get negative.
He
comments.
has to have some level of restraint.
Exactly. Like it's not like he's instantly always getting offended by everything, because as a content creator, you're always going to deal with negative comments, obviously. So, but I'm just saying that I do agree that he didn't handle it as well as he could have. He should have continued having direct discussion with Alcon and be more direct about what he's annoyed at, and that he definitely does not want it to continue. Because what I like, that's my main annoyance at this video. I saw the video, and he lacked to even show me why exactly Alcon is the bad guy. Like to this day, all the comments I've seen were just lighthearted nothingness. Like the whole video is about Alcon being mean and his community being mean to Jnic, but there is no evidence of anything of that. I'm sitting here watching and be like, yeah, I mean, if that's what happened, well, yeah, that's bad, but show it to me. Like, you're making a video about it, so it must have been serious enough to warrant this video. So where's the evidence? Where is what he did? I basically have to trust Jnic that it has been as bad as he's making it out to be, because I don't see any evidence of it. You're saying that that there has been like very negative comments, yeah, but why don't you show those then? I didn't see anything about that. And,
so
that's the annoying thing about it.
He has the images. He has a image or file dump that I think's linked in the video. Also, the video is still it is unlisted, but it is still available on his Twitter. You can go to Jnic's Twitter and you can find a video right then and there. He has not removed that.
I just would have hoped that we didn't have this video, because I don't think this video has.
The video
been
was not needed. This could have been handled completely without a video. It could have been handled. I wouldn't even be talking about this right now if it was handled differently.
I also don't like that he's saying, like, he's also making it bigger than this one case. Like, he's starting the video with been so much toxicity. There's been toxicity in Trackmania. But he only shows one single case. I don't know.
Let's get into.
There are single personalities that are negative.
So before we continue this, he goes into that. This is the final segment that we have on this video. It's going to start at 4 minutes. Production guy. And let's see what he has to say about
harassment, but I know that there's other stories. As
Can you go back?
Another not
earlier,
completely
please?
unrelated issue is that Elcon is not the only person facilitating stuff like this. So far, I've only talked about what I've personally received as harassment, but I know that there's other stories, as I've said. Another not completely unrelated issue is the elitism that is going on in the scene. This veteran players versus casual players thing. And since I make content primarily targeted against casual players, these veterans seem to have an easier time to target me, for whatever reason. I sincerely believe that catering...
I have a huge issue with this, and I will start first, and then I will let you guys have your moment. But this is probably the most painful thing I've heard in my life. It's the most untrue thing I've ever heard in my life, that people are actively targeting him because he appeals to casual players. That is not at all why people are targeting him. If we want to be honest, the reason why majority are targeting him is because he is friends with Virtual, and when you are a friend with somebody who is as popular as Virtual is in the Trackmania community, let alone Twitch community as a whole, you are going to get targeted. Unfortunately, that is how it's going to be. It is not because you appeal to a casual player base. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of casuals, obviously, because Virtual appeals to a large audience. And if you are a friend of his and you are also a streamer and you are taking part of his audience, that audience share is going to be yours automatically. At least a small portion of it. So yeah, you are going to have a large casual base, but the toxicity is not because you produce content towards casual, even if it's questionable content like playing matchmaking with yourself blindfolded. We could talk about that, but we're not going to. However,
I don't even mind that. He was probably still better than some bronze play.
I mean,
Probably
potentially,
not,
but still, that's you. We want to talk about actual toxicity. Like that's we can talk about actual toxicity. There's actual toxicity in like Cup of the Day, Track of the Day, where there is sexist, racist comments, bigoted comments against people of different orientations
Or nationality.
or nationality.
Mm-hmm.
Those are actual issues. Why wasn't the now if we wanted to talk about an actual topic about toxicity, that should have been addressed in this video. That would have actually given this video a little bit more oomph, an actual reason to have this video rather than a self-focused video. Again, I'm not saying that he's not entitled to his views. I'm not saying that he's in the wrong for feeling the way he feels regarding being attacked by a specific group of people. But what I am against is somehow attributing that group of people as to all veteran players being elite, or a majority of veteran players being elite against people who make casual content. If that were the case, then Evil would get blasted on a daily basis, and we are an org that primarily makes content towards both veterans and casuals. That is our whole shtick. That's what we do. And honestly, I like, you know what? Homie didn't attend Trackadia. Maybe he should have, and then he would realize how wholesome the Trackmania community is, because like this argument makes no sense to me. I'm done.
That is my main issue with this video, because when I saw the title, I was like, oh, okay, he's gonna talk about how people have been harassed in the community, how people has been racist, how people has been toxic to each other, how people have been attacking minorities, everything. But it was self-centered. So I was like, where is the toxicity in the community, man? Where is it? Show me, you know? I think that the way that he delivered the video and his issues wasn't the way, you know? Because now many people have seen that video, you know? Many people have seen that video because also Virtual promoted the video, you know? And now it seems like the whole Trackmania community is fucking toxic. But it's not. It was a targeted group of people. And the toxicity that we have in the community has always been a targeted group of people. So why are you painting the picture saying that everyone has been toxic when it wasn't? You know, that is a straight up lying. And it's a straight up not showing the facts of the things that you're saying, that you're going to say on your video. I didn't like that. I think that it was completely wrong from a content creator perspective, sorry. And now the whole community is basically drawn as a toxic. I've seen this happening in League of Legends. I don't want that to happen here.
Oh my goodness.
You know?
These people think this is toxic. They haven't had death threats and people saying that they did your mother like 16 times in a single like match.
Okay. Like, not because that is being toxic and everything, but not because that is not happening here. We wouldn't be crying about things like this, you know, because everything can be toxic in a certain way, you know. What I mean is that I don't want that to happen here, you know. I don't want to have people to be saying that kind of threats, you know, in this community. Myself, I haven't seen it yet. I hope it doesn't happen. But when you portray the whole community as being toxic, you know what that allows to? For the trolls that are in other games, for the toxic people that in this game that haven't been toxic because they're like, oh, this community is not toxic, you're giving them a door, an open door to be toxic. You know, because they're gonna be like, well, if this community is toxic, well, I don't care, you know, I'm gonna be like this here.
Let's get Shorty's opinion on here.
No, that's basically what I wanted to say as well. I mean, that's what's making me annoyed. I don't think that's really opening adore. But honestly, I have no clue about that. That's not my specialty at all. I have no clue. But I just don't like the fact that he's portraying something that is obviously not the case. I was watching the video. I was like, in general already. I was like, I don't know if I want a video about that, but it's definitely something that can be talked about and maybe should be shown some light on, because there is some toxic part in Trackmania. There's always has been toxic members in Trackmania. There's always been parts of Trackmania toxic in certain ways, and making a video about that would have been a good idea. But
Yeah.
that was not what the video actually is about, and I don't know. I don't think he meant it mean, but I really don't like the video at all, honestly.
Yeah. So we're getting to the end of the podcast here, but we are going to go into our Q&A section. I'm going to say something. You guys can go ahead and start asking questions. It doesn't have to be necessarily about the Jnic thing, but it can be about all what we've talked about today or something unrelated. That's cool too. But we are going to go ahead and have our Q&A session. But I want to end it on I'm going to end it with my opinion, then on a positive note. What you both have said, I agree with. I think the issue is that for me, from my experience, veterans are actually willing to help casual players. I've met so many people in this community who are willing to help each other out, learn the game, get interested in new, different aspects of Trackmania. Yeah, there's a toxic guy every once in a while. Go to matchmaking. Yeah, you'll find somebody telling you to uninstall the game, which is still mild compared to literally any other esport I've ever played. And then on top of that, when we talk about the actual toxicity of like racist comments and just things about nationalities, orientations, you typically find that from those who are often not veterans, but those who are casuals who are just playing the game, or very just young children who don't know any better. So I think like the others said, both Shorty and Lime, that what this whole statement at the end, and this is what incensed me more than anything else, honestly, even with the virtual stuff, which I still find like just bad timing overall, that's not as bad as the statement this is his call to action. This is his reason behind everything. This is what he bases his entire video off of. This is what he bases the harassment off of. And this is the entire flaw of the video. And this is why I'm completely against this video in the first place, is because he makes this very blatant false claim that it's something to do with veteran elitism as to why he's being bullied. And that is not the case. It is something completely different, and is simply due to the fact of who he is, has his connections with, and who he relates to. And sorry, but when you put yourself in that spotlight, you are going to attract that. Is it okay? No. Is Elcon in the right? No. Did what Elcon's community did okay? Of course not. And they have been, and I want to end on a good note that Elcon and Jnic have apparently made it better. They've come to an agreement, essentially an understanding with one another. So it has been resolved. The drama's over. Yay! Everybody raise their hands. But
Woo!
The drama for me is not over when you make a claim as ridiculous. Yeah. Woo! The drama is not the drama. No. We don't make ridiculous claims like that. And I hope I never hear anything come out of his mouth. I do actually respect Jnic for what he does. I do think he brings new people to Trackmania, and I appreciate the work that he does to try to bring people and more eyes to Trackmania. On the flip side, though, don't make stupid claims that veteran elitism is the reason why you're getting harassed. That's ridiculous. All right, now we're going to move on to the more fun part. We're going to interact with our viewers here. Can we get the first question? I can't even see the first question. First question is in Discord. Okay.
Yeah, well,
production,
he was reading
production
maybe,
just copy and paste it for us so we can do this.
Yeah, so we can just look at it directly. I just want to say that I fully agree with that. Like, I have nothing against Jnic. I just didn't like this video in particular. Like, the rest of it, I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah. So, okay, Lexi T, we will, I'll let either you decide who it is. Just make sure your comment is short and sweet, because we don't want to waste too much time on this. My question is this. Trackmania is becoming far more prominent. Oh, this is by Lexi T. So my question is this: Trackmania is becoming far more prominent as of late, and part of that is attracting the kind of people who will be toxic. What should Nadeo do to combat the toxicity? And what is the responsibility of the Trackmania community at large? Also, what is streamers' responsibility in this too?
Yeah, who should answer that first? That's actually multiple questions.
Yeah, there are multiple questions.
So
One thing. Okay.
go, Lime, go ahead and answer question 1. What should let's see.
What should Nadeo do to combat toxicity?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that I know that I noticed and that many people has said in the past is that it's really difficult to report a player inside Trackmania. You don't have like an easy step on going onto this player's profile and report for this and this reason. You have to manually do some sort of ticket, I believe. I don't really know what the guidelines are for reporting people, but the main issue is that you don't have a easy way of reporting. Reports work. We've seen it in many games, and then after a while, like, you get the message of the people being banned. You don't have that in Trackmania. So when you see someone being toxic to you or to someone in the matchmaking of Capo de Day, for example, you have no way of reporting them immediately. You have to wait. You have to send proof. And many people have said, I don't have any proof because I don't record my games, I don't take screenshots of the game. So how am I going to report these people? So I believe Trackmania should step into that more now that we are going to have the console players coming to Trackmania. With that, it comes a large amount of people into the game. And it would be amazing if we had a better and easy way to report people. So ourselves, gamers, casual players and everyone can just stop the toxicity from the second that it starts,
So,
Nice.
sorry, we were just getting from production. So, Nadeo is supposedly supposed to be redoing and operating on a new report function for the game. So, that's kind of been hinted for a while now, I believe. But yeah, just as a reminder, Shorty, there is a second question to that really quickly though. What's the streamer's responsibility in this?
I want to say that I'm really mad that production is taking away my information. I wanted to say the same. I think that there is, to a certain degree. The problem is you can, like, legally, it sounds a bit weird. Legally, obviously, you can't, because it's my stream. As a content creator, it's my responsibility, but there is nobody that forces me to abide by certain toxicity rules. So some streamers are more toxic than others, some are less toxic. I do think I had not a long discussion, but I did have a discussion after the 24-hour race that happened, where my team got banned for certain things. So we did talk about that topic a little bit there as well. And I think an interesting point of view definitely is that just because you're a big streamer doesn't mean that you can't do things that can be a bit toxic. But when you are a big streamer, you should definitely think about that. Like, you should always, if you know that something is controversial, and like in our case, for example, it was a really big discussion afterwards, and it was really hard to say if we did something wrong or not. There were people that absolutely hated what we did. I'm not going to go into what we did. I'm just saying that people absolutely hated it, and there were others that called us clever for it. So, but I just want to say that once, actually, like, Kai Lacostrobo was the one that told me that he said that, yeah, but did you ever think about your reach about that? And I had to actually say that, yeah, true. In all of that time, obviously we had some thought process about before we did our strategy, but I did not think about, yeah, but about the reach, and about how it looks. And I do feel like that, especially if you have a lot of people watching, then you may at least sometimes want to have a second thought, like a second wait a bit, and think it through with the knowledge of, if I'm gonna do it, people are gonna automatically assume this is okay, and you have to think about it. If what I am gonna do is that, if do I want everyone to think like that, is kind of the idea.
Right.
That's maybe automatically then against toxicity as well, because even if you're toxic yourself, if you think about, do I want others to be like that, then I think even the ones that sometimes occasionally are toxic also would say, nah, I don't want everyone to be like that.
So, I agree. Going on to the next question. It's from Forever. Question to everyone: do you think there is any TMCL duo that is better than any of the TMGL duos? And that's a very tough question. I had to pull up the TMCL duos because honestly, the only one I remembered off the top of my head was like Scrappy and Dexter and Ratchet and Barbos. But
Better.
That's kind of stuffed.
honestly,
Hi guys. Let me
I
start
could
off by
see
saying
Feed
something.
and
They are not
Enter.
Team GLC, sadly.
Oh shit, no.
I could see Feed and Enter actually being in TMGL, but who would they take over? That's a bigger question. I don't know. Yeah, I could see Feed and Enter taking over. Maybe like I would say one of the French squads. Honest, I personally the French squads are such a big question mark for me that I could see maybe one of the French squads. I know people still think that Sinners is like last, but I don't even think I don't think Sinners is going to be as bad as people think they are. And I'm not saying that because I'm on their team. I'm saying that because like I think they're actually a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
better than people give them credit
Of
for.
course.
But yeah, I don't know. I would say Feed and Enter though would be like the one TMCO lineup. As much as I love Barbos and Ratchet, I don't think they could do it. And is Scrappy and Dexter maybe?
I mean, I'm gonna say the thing that I absolutely always hate about Trackmania. In Trackmania, for all those years, especially since Trackmania hasn't been that big of an esport, and if you do it, then you just do it for fun. You always say about certain players, yeah, but if you just would train and if you would just put in the work, then they
Ooh.
would be insane. That's really annoying because, you can say that about everyone because you never know how much they trained, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna say that if Dexter and Scrappy really would want it, and if they are motivated, then they, I think, do have the skill. Scrappy obviously has been in TMGL before, and he did kind of fell out, and I feel like he maybe has not tried his fullest to stay in because his content creation is just going so well that everyone knew that he's not really unhappy about not having to train and everything and all the stress because he can just play Trackmania, stream it, and he's getting more money out of that already.
Yeah.
But Dexter also has shown that he has been in Team GL until he dropped out because of health-related issues. I'm not sure what was it again. He did drop out on his own. Like he didn't get knocked out by skill. He got knocked out because he just didn't want to play anymore or something like that was there. So he did have the skill to compete at that level. It's been a lot of time, obviously, in between, but I don't really feel like he's getting weaker. But I mean, obviously, I know both of them, so
Yeah.
it's the obvious pick for me. We will see. I'd like to see them in TMGL though. That's all I'm gonna say. Obviously, right? I'd like to see it. Would be funny.
Lime, really quickly. Do you have any? Do you have a duo that you think could maybe be TMGL over, or no?
Not really, but now that I see Link and Mi Quattro,
They're a good duo too.
they were in TMGL in it. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot of
they've-
Team
and
GL
they
players.
fell
in this.
off.
Yeah.
That is the thing. I think in this case for TMCL, it's more of what's the motivation for them to reach out in TMGL, because Shorty was talking about the Scrappy not playing much or falling off. And then one of the main reasons I believe that Scrappy wasn't playing or training too much, it was because in TMGL there was no motivation actually to keep playing, because there was no no
The
motivation,
incentive
you know.
wasn't as high as it's now. The incentive
The
Yeah,
of
incentive
actually
is
the
huge,
competing is
incentive is
getting
not
bigger
as
and bigger.
high. Yeah, now you have a motivation.
There's
You have an
a solid
incentive that
path to
is
pro now.
huge. So yeah, they will have to prove now. That is for the team to see, like, if this incentive is strong enough for them to actually put on effort and time to reach the TMJL. Personally, I don't see Scrappy going back
I don't
because
see them winning it as well, though.
no,
I don't see it,
I
but
don't
I would
see
be
I
it.
don't see
nice,
that. I
but I
don't
don't
see it
see them.
either. Because
This is like really good for
assuming
them for
Scrappy is still
content.
Scrappy, if he's just
Yeah.
focusing on content, like, yeah, it's not happening. All right, I know
Lincoln
we want to
B4.
continue to talk, but I have the last question, and I think it is kind of important because we will share some Evo stuff, and there was an important question of when is the next Trackadia event. This is going to be a tough answer, but luckily there's still some people here. So for those of you who were at Trackadia, or those of you who heard of Trackadia but weren't able to attend, unfortunately, Trackadia is not going to be happening this next year. The Arcadia Hotel is closing down their operation due to insane rising costs of the building. Unfortunately, with the gas prices and the war situation over in Russia and Ukraine, the gas prices went astronomically high, to where it literally pretty much bankrupted them. However, it is not all lost. We at Evo are doing our best to find a solution, and we feel that we are getting potentially very close to one that would keep it still in Germany. We're talking with a couple venues at the moment, so we are going to try our best to have Trackadia. It's not going to be named Trackadia, but it is going to be something close to it. And me and Atomic are doing it together, and we just actually got off a phone with one of venues, and they sounded extremely excited about it. So keep your fingers crossed. We are trying to get that. If you are interested in helping us find a venue, or if you're somebody who really likes organization and keeping things organized, we are trying to find somebody who is helping us to keep this information organized, because we are having to do calls. We are having to compile a lot of information. We gotta make pitch decks for some of these venues, because we have multiple interested venues, but really we have to do a lot of the legwork as well. And obviously, none of these venues are free. It's not like Arcadia, where they came to the Trackmania community. We're having to reach out to these venues. So there's a lot that's going into it, but we have some not even faint glimmers of hope, but shining beams of light potentially. So hopefully that will happen. So yeah, we will keep you up to date on that. The plan is still the same, end of September, like it was. But yeah, unfortunately, Trackadia, they got charged basically 250,000 euros for 1 month of heating their hotel. And if you went to that hotel, it was a renovated hotel from the 1970s. And if you know that hotel, it was like they say renovated, but all they did was slap some paint on that sucker. It was a really old hotel. They tried their best with it, but unfortunately it wasn't gonna. And unfortunately, Vemzer, who organized the Trackmania tournament, he's also not going to be with Arcadia any longer. But he is going to be helping us try to make the next Trackadia. The new Trackadia is our working title right now, but we're going to actually have a different title for it. So yeah, we're going to try to have this land because we think it's very important for the international community, for Trackmania, to have something that's available and central for everyone, and not and sorry Nadio and other our French friends, something not in France, because having an event in France is not international friendly, due to laws and everything. It's just it's not internationally friendly and not inviting towards an international audience. So we want something that is going to be inviting to everyone, because that was the biggest draw of Trackadia. And yeah, we're going to try to have it here in Germany again. If not, somewhere close in the area that's still central location. So Yeah, reach out to me if you have anything. But that is the Trackadia update for right now. So, all right, that is it. I've had fun. Did you guys have fun?
One last question.
Oh, one last question.
Yeah,
Oh.
one last question. That is a fun question. CD asked, which of your co-hosts has a better mustache?
It's Shorty. It's Shorty.
Why are you answering her question? It's her question.
Yeah, it's a question. It was a question for me.
I know, but still, it's Shorty.
Yeah, it's Shorty. What's going on with your mustache?
I have a slight
Nice.
Hitler stash
Thanks.
going on. Like it's kind of bad. Like it's kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm an American. I can say that. Free country. Still live on American soil technically. But yeah, it's Shorty's got it going on.
I'll pull it up
Thank
that
you.
mustache.
I
That's it.
feel
That was the
flattered.
question.
All right, so
Say
that is
goodbye.
it for the stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. 2 hours, woo! But that kind of blew by pretty quickly. Thank you for listening.
It's the
to
first
us rant.
episode. It's
Yeah.
a bit longer. It happens. All
Yeah,
good.
it's okay. But we will be back, I guess, next week. Same time next week, Thursday at 9 o'clock. There will be a VOD. This will also be streamed to, well, not streamed, but this will also be placed on Spotify. So if you ever want to come back to it and just listen to it while you're on a jog or doing something nice, you can check it out on Spotify as well. But yes, there will be a VOD here. That being said, that is it for us this evening. This is Dropped Gears, and man, I dropped my 4th gear again, and now I'm not happy anymore. I'm gonna mold more. Yeah, that's it. We're done.
That's it.
Somebody
Thank
save me.
you.
I'm ready to go
Good
to bed.
evening, everyone.
If you have any feedback, you
Or
can send
day.
it.
Or night.
Yeah, send feedback. Discord, mad DMs. Tell me I'm bad. I may make a video about it if you tell me I'm bad, though. If you target me.
Wow. Really?
All right, you guys. Production, stop typing and get me off the stream before I get myself in trouble.